Does disc herniation heal on its own, or you need surgery for your recovery? This is one of the most common questions that many of you guys ask in my YouTube channel, and in this video I'm going to discuss whether do you need surgery for your disc herniation or not. In this video I'm going to talk about lumbar disc herniation with one of my online clients, Rob, who started his rehab plan 7 months ago with me. And Rob, when he started his plan, was not able to walk or sit for a couple of minutes. He was in severe amount of pain and sciatica symptoms down in his leg, and he was quite concerned about his condition, and he didn't know what he has to do for his recovery to be able to get back to his lifestyle and get pain-free. If you've never been in this channel, my name is Bob. I'm a physical therapist. I help people globally through online consultation and rehab plan and provide them guidelines and tips for their recovery. If you are looking for a second opinion in regards to your low back pain, I would be happy to organize an online consultation and we can go through your case and review your injury and your MRI scan, and I will answer your question in regards to what you can do and where you can start. You can use the link below and book your online consultation right away. I would highly recommend you guys to watch this video until the end, when we show and go through his recovery routine and what he's done for his recovery, and specifically Rob share a couple of important tips in regards to his recovery that help him the most. And I believe this can be hugely beneficial for you who are watching this video and you're looking for some sort of tips for quicker recovery. We've been working for a while together, and I would love to share your own story with people who are watching this video. Any way that you want to start, I suppose, you know, how we start to work together, what happened to you, contacted me, and where we are right now. Would that be okay, Rob?
Yeah, let's do that.
I suppose, you know, maybe you start with like what happened initially that you basically contacted me.
Yeah.
Maybe you go with that first.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think I know what happened. There was, you know, over time, sports and all those things, they kind of build up, exercise builds up in your lower back. And then I think this is what happened. I was trying to uproot an old stump out of my yard. And of course, when you do that, you lift a lot with your back, not as much with your legs. So you're trying to get things done, you know. So at that point, I didn't really feel too much that day, just a little bit of pain. But then the next day and the next day and the next day, it got progressively worse, to a point where I couldn't sit, I couldn't lay down flat, and it was just excruciatingly painful. So went to the doctor, they did some tests, the slump test, they, you know, did like an examination, go, well, we think that's something with your back, we'll do an MRI. Got the MRI done, they said, yeah, it looks like it's an L5 S1 herniation of the disc, and it's an extrusion, and this is what you have. So your options are, essentially, you want to do surgery, we do surgery, but you're probably going to want to do therapy first to see if that works out. And that's when I found you online, because I was looking for the things of like how to alleviate the symptoms. And then I found your program. Then we worked together for now 7 months, and now here we are.
Yeah, exactly. And Rob, like, when was that? What was the time of the year that you got those symptoms? I know we work in 7 months, which means like right now it was around November last year, was it?
Yeah, almost November. My symptoms started around October 7th, 2023. And then I went through that whole month of trying to figure out what I was going to do. And then, because, you know, it takes a while to get the MRI and stuff like that. And then to figure it out. We started in November. Today it is May 8th, I think it is, 2024.
Exactly. Yeah. And let's say when you got those symptoms initially, like you mentioned that you weren't able to see it, you weren't able to lie down. Maybe describe that a little more in details, like the severity of the symptoms, like how much you could do things, like walking around, doing things, you know, day-to-day activities.
Oh, it progressively got worse. Like at first I could kind of walk around and I could, you know, bend over and pick up things. But then as time went on through the entire month of October, it just progressively got worse, because I kept working out to think, oh, it was, you know, maybe it's not this, maybe just I need to stretch, maybe it's I need to do more physical exercise. And then it just progressively went downhill to a point to where we live in Puerto Rico, and right now we're in Texas here for business.
Yeah.
And when I had to go back to Puerto Rico to fly back, I was walking in the airport with a cane, with one of these lumbar belts to support me.
I remember
And
that.
then, yeah, and then just to get onto the plane for 4 hours of sitting was excruciatingly painful because I
I
couldn't
get you.
sit, but I had to sit to actually get back. And it was, I would say, on a pain level of me just walking around, probably like around a 6 or a 7. And then for me to sit over time would be like around a 8, 9. And it was, and then I just remember, getting out the plane and feeling relief, then having to drive back home. And it was just like, it was just progressively more painful, more pain. And then when I got back in November, like actually end of October, to be able to, I couldn't lay flat, couldn't lay in the bed. The only thing that really helped me was to lay on my stomach,
Exactly.
arched up a little bit, and that was it.
I remember the first couple of session that we had. It was on that position. You were lying on the belly, and then, like, it was even sitting or standing wasn't comfortable. Okay, then let's go through maybe the initial consultation that we did together, because it's very important for people who are watching this video that to understand what we cover in the initial consultation. And how was it for you, Rob? Based on the conversation that we had and thing that I discussed, how do you find that consultation?
Yeah, the initial consultation was, I mean, it was good because I didn't know where to go. And I didn't understand, hey, should I keep doing these stretches? Hey, should I keep pushing myself? Hey, if I do push myself, is this going to get even worse and worse and worse? Because I think that's what a lot of people, when they go through that, they're like, am I making myself worse or making myself better? And then initial consultation was great. And then you put together a plan. And what was great about the plan was that I didn't understand that, like steps would affect me so much. I remember the first the 2 or 3 weeks, we did step tracking. And when you went through it, you're like, why are you doing 7,000, 8,000 steps when, you're in this much pain? You need to back it up to like 3,000 steps. And I was like, geez, that's not a lot, but I guess I'll try that. So we progressively went down. And as the steps went down, my pain level went down throughout the day. Now it was still like a 6 or a 7, but it wasn't like an 8 or 9 or 10 because it actually reduced the amount. And then we went over that. Then we took a look at, the consumption of, food of what I was eating, which was, I eat the same thing all the time. It's pretty much like roughly a carnivore, high protein diet, low carb thing. So that wasn't too much an issue, but it was good to know, like, and I would text you and say, hey, Bob, I'm having more pain. What do you think about this? And you would tell me, like, try not to do these many things and don't do this. And if you do these parts, you might get worse, but just realize that at some point, just doing these exercises, you're not going to, like, blow out your back even more so.
Exactly.
And I think the mental part for that piece, and also the piece about, we talked about the neural pathways of the brain body connection and how, like, for the pain levels that you experience, a lot of times as time goes on, people heal up, but they still have those neural pathway connections, and you're still going to feel pain. But if you don't understand that it's just these connections that need to be broken, you have to understand that mentally, you really can't move on. And that, I think, was a bigger thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I believe, like, I think, I don't know how much the MRI impacted you, like, or what you researched before you contacted me, like, in regards to getting clarity about your MRI scan and what is the action plan. And what was your picture on the initial consultation, Rob? Like, let's say before you contacted me, I suppose you have some fear of, is this good? Is this bad? What is it?
Yeah, well, I mean, for the MRI, I was pretty certain that's what it was, but you never know. You always think in the back of your mind, you're like, well, maybe it's one herniation of the disc, or maybe it's 5. Who knows?
Yeah.
So when you get that report back and it says exactly what it is, okay, you have an L5 S1, and it's, you have this herniation of the disc. There's nothing else outside that's really affecting you. There's just, essentially bulging and pain and pressure on nerves. And you're like, okay, so there's that part. And then for you, when we move forward, I was like, okay, I know what it is. Now let's see if we can, improve that process. So
exactly.
For me, it was just to know it was good, but it wasn't like the end all be all. Because I knew that, there was a pain there. So as time went on, I thought I would just, heal up. But I needed a little bit of guidance of what I could do and couldn't do.
This is a very important things that you mentioned about, like, you had a very clear belief that I'm going to actually get better and I'm going to heal up. And that's something that happened, in the majority of this herniation or extrusion, which we have more data now. And it's more clear to even, I suppose, translate this to patient that you don't necessarily need to be too worried about it. A very little, I would say maybe 1% of back pain get to the point that they need urgent care or surgery, and we can't really avoid that. But majority of cases, like yourself, do heal up. They do get, some of them get reabsorption, like yours, but some of them they don't, and they still have no symptoms. I do have actually a patient that he has got the second MRI and he hasn't got actually any reabsorption, but he has a full function and no symptoms, which is a very interesting part to mention as well. But okay, then Rob, since you start your rehab plan, maybe just give some insight, like what part of the rehab you mentioned about, like that measurement of steps, which is very relevant, and like we probably gonna just briefly explain this, that like how would I describe this, that you end up doing maybe too much without knowing, and something as simple as walking,
Uh-huh.
if you're an active person, probably is a very normal activity. You might not notice that as an activity that you should stop it, but walking was simply you were doing maybe too much. And I was mentioning that, okay, let's back it off from, let's say, 7,000-8,000 a day to maybe 3,000-4,000. Beside those measurements, we had other things on the plan, like for example, exercises that was very clear what you have to do, like let's say pain ratio, stress level, sleep hours. How did you find them relevant to your kind of like your recovery and having a picture of what you should do and what you shouldn't?
You know what's a funny thing is that everybody that I went to, because I did other therapies besides just physiotherapy, and we talked
Mm-hmm.
about this. Some things I never believed in that actually worked out pretty well, acupuncture, and some of the things I've done before, which was chiropractor, which I know you didn't recommend, but the only reason I went to this chiropractor is because he had an L5 S1 herniated disc and knew exactly what it took. And it wasn't big manipulation, but everybody I talked to, even the doctor, said what will help you in improving these symptoms and getting you on the path to recovery is your stress levels have to be low. And thankfully for me, as time has gone on, I have a very roughly a stress-free life. And I think that was the biggest thing. So there was no stress or low stress. And then the understanding that, as we, do these exercises, like I would say, okay, Bob, here I am at 12,000 steps. What's happening? And my pain level is this, because there's an Excel spreadsheet. And you go, well, if you're doing this many steps and your pain level is doing this, you have to reduce these steps and do that. Okay, Bob, here's some exercises I'm doing and my pain level went up a little bit. Okay, well, you can't do this and this. We're going to substitute it for this, this, and this. And I think because of doing that, it helped me to, move forward. And another thing was, when you first get these symptoms, of course, you go online and you read all these horror stories about what's happening, and people are like, I've had it for 20 years and it never goes away. And I was like, okay, I can't keep reading these stories because it's not going to really help me. But there's other people who said, you know what? It took me X amount of months. And it was your show. And there was another YouTuber who talked about it. And they said, the patients that we see, this doesn't get rectified in a month or 2 months. They said, even like data from the National Institute of Health will tell you so much. He said, but in all honesty, from what we see in the practice, you're looking at 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe up to a year, but your symptoms do actually get better and you don't need surgery. And I was like, well, I can get on board with that. It's going to take some time.
Very good, very good. And that's a very relevant point, because there's a lot of information out there, Rob. Like, and this is something that I really try to highlight for my patient, including yourself. I probably told you this about, like, a lot of people come with questions that they want to find out online. And I do have a YouTube channel, and you do have a YouTube channel, and we try to put out some information there relevant to what we do and what we understand. But
Right.
in this perspective, even though I work with a lot of people globally, and I help them to get better with their back pain, and I'm studying this field for the last 20 years, and I'm still studying because there's a lot of updated data comes out, which is very, very controversy from what we used to teach and learn, and you know what I mean? And it's constantly changing. And a lot of questions that you might ask me, I might not really have an answer for it. And I tell you, you won't find an answer in internet or in Google or in YouTube, because it's very difficult to really answer some questions, and we still don't have data. And if you don't have data, that answer does not have a value to rely on. That's why it's really crucial to minimize reading and searching while you're following a rehab, because mentally that can really hit you hard, doesn't it? Because there's a lot of negative stories. I mean, some successful stories. Like I try to share all my successful stories in my YouTube channel, but honestly, I don't have a negative story to share with you. Otherwise, I would, because there's always a lesson from that story for people watching these stories to get an idea, okay, what would be the possibility of other things that could be possible happen. Brilliant. And Rob, and then in regards to progression, how do you define the concept of progression? Because part of the plan is that you manage the pain in a very earlier phase of your rehab. Right. And after that, managing that pain, we slowly progress in your rehab plan, exercises, and we get you to some more advanced stuff. How did you find that transition in your own mind?
So in the beginning, it was tough because you want to get healthy as fast as possible. So you do what most people do, which you push yourself a little too hard. Mm-hmm. When you push yourself too hard, then you have to kind of bring it back. It's kind of like doing this. In the very beginning, sometimes it was like 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back. And then you're like, well, this sucks. But you have to, you taper it to the person and the individual like you did. So it worked out pretty well for me. So like the first month or so you talked about it, you go, look, this is the acute phase, and it's going to be painful and it's going to suck for a little bit. But once you get past that, it's going to be a little bit better. So then when we got to like the second month, and then, we would meet every 3 weeks or 2 weeks, I forgot what it was. Yeah. And we would change what was actually being done. You're like, okay, well, first it's all about mobility. Let's just do some mobility exercises. Nothing about strength. Reduce the walking. Make sure you're not eating awful. Make sure you live stress-free, and then, just kind of take time. And after about a month or so, then we change things up. Okay, you're doing a little bit better, but your pain level's still at a 6, 7, or 8 sometimes when you do too much. So bring it back. Let's try to get your pain level to between 4, 5, and 6. So then we did that, and then we started to progress. And it was just like like a stepping stone. Like, okay, you're here, and now you're here, and then just kind of maybe sometimes you take 2 steps and 2 steps back. But then at some point, you're going to take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And then before you know it, you're taking 2 steps forward and no steps back. And that's where everybody wants to be.
Yeah, but this is so crucial. And thank you for highlighting that, Rob, because there's no incline progression, consistent incline progression in any rehab, and specifically in your lower back pain. If you have herniation, bulges, sciatica symptoms, these are the things that takes time. And whoever promising you a magical routine or quick fix, I would definitely question it, because I want to know how, because there's none, there's none, seriously. And it's all about your body adaptation. Like what we know more that even though up to today, we don't have a data that to say, okay, Bob has the best rehab plan who can fix back pain. I never claimed that. I believe what we have in this plan is all about giving you tools to be able to manage your pain, understand your pain a little bit more. And what you mentioned about that, like hypersensitivity and your nervous system, that's a science that you need to understand. Otherwise can really irritate your belief about, your pain sometimes, and you might think you're never going to get better. And by understanding those tools, you build some self independency on your rehab, and you have tools to use, and that rehab plan and all those statistics become meaningful for you, which is so true. That's why some flare-up happen in some stage of your rehab, and we can't really avoid them. We're trying to minimize them through following that plan with measuring everything, but it's not always possible to get no flare-up. But that's so true. Now, Rob, I believe, to give people a bit of kind of understanding, where are you right now, like in regards to your rehab? Like, because I suppose you've been following this rehab for a while.
Yeah.
How would you describe your symptoms right now in relation to where it was?
Oh, from where I was, it's like night and day. But like it's just true. Everything takes time, you know. And like what you were saying is, there's no magic cure. There's no magic thing that's going to actually, be super fast. It just takes time. It's the same thing like when we talk about as far as like with investing. If you think you're just going to get
Yes,
rich overnight, it's not going to happen. You're going to get screwed
exactly.
over. It's just how it is. It's how life works. So I'll give you a great example of how things have progressed. When I flew back to Puerto Rico at the end of October, it was
Yeah.
excruciatingly painful and it sucked and it was awful. We just got back here in Texas. It was 4 days ago. And the flight from Puerto Rico to Houston to El Paso, the pain level was around 1, sometimes a 2 if there was like,
Gotcha.
some turbulence. But it was way better, much easier. And at some point, I didn't really feel much at all. And I was actually on my phone, just
Mm,
playing around or doing some, goofy things just to pass the time. So it was
I
like night
gotcha.
and day. And then when I got off the plane, it wasn't like I was in concrete. I actually just got up and walked, and that was it. So yeah. And
Amazing.
then even like, so we got back on a Wednesday, and then on Saturday, went out to meet some friends and played sand volleyball. And it wasn't an issue, which I know you're like, you shouldn't really do that too much, Robert. I'm like, I'll be okay.
I
And then
know, I know.
yeah, and
But that's a huge progress, the sand volleyball, that like I suppose this is a huge I suppose progress that you should share and celebrate in some stage, you know what I mean, for yourself, and it's good for people who watching this video to know that you can get to the phase that you can do much more high intensity activities such as playing volleyball, and I mean how much you play, how often and how intense you play is a different story, which means those are all relevant to your case. But if I briefly, let's say, ask you to share with people, Rob, um, maybe 3 to 4, like important tips that you would share with people who suffer from a similar kind of like injury, yeah, what would it be for them for the recovery? What do you think
oh,
helped you the most?
the most was the mental aspect. Just know that you're going to get better. And I think if you go online and you watch and you read all the stories, man, apparently nobody gets better in the world. Everybody's, really living in pain for decades and decades. But that's not really what it is. It's just realizing that, okay, yeah, this thing happened, but yeah, there's a way out of it. And I can do those things. It's just going to take some time. It's not going to be a month. It's not going to be a 6-week type of thing. It's going to be a progressive movement of getting to where I want to be. And I think that is the big thing. So there's that. The second thing I think would be the stress levels. If you have high stress levels, I mean, it affects everything. You can see that from even for people with high blood pressure, even people with diabetes, even people with debilitating diseases.
Absolutely.
It will always flare things up. So whatever you have to do to decrease
Stress level.
the stress levels, the problems that you have in your life, you need to do that as fast as possible. And then the last thing I would say is be consistent, because I mean we can do these exercises, we can do these mobilities, we can eat a certain way, we can reduce our stress, but try to be as consistent as you possibly can, because if you can't do that, then you'll never really get to the gains and be where you want to be.
Amazing. I love them, Rob. Seriously, thank you for that, because I think those 3 factors are so crucial. And unfortunately, I think in our healthcare, they do not really emphasize that to people, how much they have to look at those things
Mm.
as red flags. Because if you don't, you're definitely missing a big part.
Yeah, it's a
And
huge part.
absolutely, absolutely, Rob. Is there anything else that you'd like to share? I mean, I'm gonna ask you to maybe talk with people about what you do as well, because you are another YouTuber out there. Because I'd like,
Mm.
I suppose I love to talk about what my clients are doing as well, and people might want to connect you in what you do. Maybe share with people what you do, or if you would like to add on anything else that we didn't discuss that you find helpful. Let's go with that.
Yeah, well, 2 things. First of all, we had an update of an MRI, which was on May
Yes,
1st,
of
2024.
course, of course.
So if you want to splice those images in, you can. But I'll just tell
Of
you
course, I will
yeah.
add those picture on the video, and I show the before and after because there's a huge differences.
As you can see in this slide, there are two separate MRI scans done, one in November 2023 and one in May 2024. And visibly, you can see the area of disc herniation in L5 S1 that Rob was complaining initially with his symptoms. And this area improved by May, and you can see visibly that the second MRI is quite different. And there's quite a lot of reabsorption. Now, from a different angle, when you look at the same level L5S1, there is a darker area on the left side of the basically scan that highlighted that disc herniation that was basically compressing the nerve root. And on the right side, you can see that's much brighter, and that shows that reabsorption has happened and it's correlating with his symptoms improvement.
You had I suppose, experience to see the post MRI scans, and how was it sounds for you? And when you got those, how do you felt?
Oh, well, I was already feeling pretty good, so I wasn't too concerned. It's a funny thing because when I first got them, this is how the mental process works. So when I first got them, it looked like when I was going through the images, I was like, oh, it looks like first it looked like it was 100% resolved. So all of a sudden I felt 100% better. And then when I was looking at the images, there was a couple that looked like, oh, no, it looks like it's actually the same. But I was looking at them a different way. And when I saw that, I go, then all of a sudden my back pain started to come back a little bit because it's a mental shift. And then when I really I sat down and I read the report and I took a look at what it was in November 15th and then how much it was on May 1st. And I compared them side by side and I go, oh, okay, then I'm actually doing way better. And all of a sudden my back pain was actually reduced. So like, again, there's another aspect to the whole mental, the
Absolutely.
mental
That is so relevant, Rob. That is so relevant because we do perceive pain, based on our beliefs and our understanding and our clarity, which means the pain is not just the fact of a tissue damage that you have and you get sore. Your belief and understanding of, the whatever scenario is there can impact pain. And that is so relevant. And I suppose, did they describe to you in the hospital? I mean, you mentioned that you got the MRI, but you didn't have any consultation with any consultant or anything, Rob. Did you?
No, so I had an initial consultation with a friend of a friend who was an orthopedic surgeon, and he's like, "Yeah, you probably got a herniated disc, but just go get an MRI." And then for the follow up, I just sent him a message. I go, "Hey man, I don't want to bother you, but could I get another MRI just to check this out?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." So he sent it over, and then there was no consultation afterwards because I don't think my insurance would even pay for this for like a follow-up because my symptoms were actually much better. So I paid for this out of pocket. And everybody's different, check with your insurance provider. So when I did it and I just went through it, there was like just the report, which was pretty lengthy, and we went, and you can show it if you want to.
Of course.
Then of course I just took a look at it, go, well, I feel better and it looks like things are progressing. That's really all I care about. I don't want to go into minutia, and that's really all it matters.
Absolutely. But I like the way that you look at things, Rob. I think that's so important that to highlight this again, that MRI scan and report give us some information, and that could be so irrelevant to your symptoms. You get me? Which means we don't look at MRI as an answer, which means you may have a very little amount of bulge in MRI with so many symptoms, and you may have huge amount of herniation with no symptoms. You know what I mean? Which is very relevant. But the fact is that we are looking to see things improving as well, which we saw it in your MRI scan that you had a quite a good reabsorption in this period of time. And the other things that I like to add for people who watch this video, that they ask this question, that how long it takes for the disc to reabsorb, because we have data that was suggesting 6 months, 3 to 6 months, but now that has shifted to 12 to 18 months of time. We still see reabsorption, which means for those who got an MRI scan after 3 months or 6 months, don't give up. You may need more time. Stay consistent, keep doing what you're doing, and you may see some sort of reabsorption later on through the time. That's brilliant, Rob. Anything else out of what we're discussing that you want to add on?
Yeah. So what you just said, I'll add on to this. Even though, we might see a reabsorption totally 100% in 12 to 18 months, I'm here around 7 months or so. And I'm able to, because I work in front of my computer all day on this standing desk, and I'm here for 6 to 8 hours. In the mornings, I'm walking my dog for about an hour or so. I walk her also about an hour at night. I'm able to work out. I'm able to sit down. I'm able to go out to restaurants. I'm able to go watch a movie, which is sitting out for 2 hours. So if if you have this pain, you know how excruciating that would be. I'm able to do all those things with a pain level between like around a 1. Sometimes it maybe a 2, but you can do it. And when you get to that 100% reabsorption, I mean, great. But I think at that point, you'll probably be even better. So right now I'm at 7 months, and that's all I'm pretty happy right now.
I'm delighted to hear that, man. I'm delighted to hear. Thank you for sticking to the plan. Thank you to follow the plan and trusting the process, because I suppose you watched some of the video of some of my clients, and you contacted me. There's always doubts and question, if this is gonna work, so if this is gonna help me, you know what I mean? And I think the more I can share, people like yourself who basically just talk their story with no, I suppose, censorship or anything. We just talk about you, and I want you to really share with them the truth message of what we have done together. That's brilliant, Rob. How people can connect to you, because you work in an industry that it's kind of like very controversial as well, right? And honestly, because I do have questions from you, and I think it would be good to connect some people who are watching this video who wanted to connect with you. What do you do exactly? Maybe share that with people as well.
Well, before years ago, I was in the Army, and then I got out and did a lot of things with real estate and education, and I was in the healthcare field. And then, but as time went on, I was pretty much retired, and I had nothing else to do. I had some things to do, and I thought, well, I got into investing. I got into not just real estate and stocks and things like that, but cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, digital assets, that kind of stuff. So we have a channel. It's called Digital Asset News, and we go over just the day's happenings of what's going on in Bitcoin and, like I said, digital assets. And like just to back up what we talked about, nothing really happens. No one gets rich overnight. And I try to bring a little bit more of brevity to the situation, and explain to people that, like, look, it's massive amount of gains that are out there, but you have to understand that it's like every kind of investment, everything that you do in life, it's going to take time. So we talk about the things that I am doing. I can't give financial advice, but we just kind of go from there. So that's the channel again, Digital Asset News. But
I will share the channel link underneath of this video, and people can connect to you. And I believe what you're telling here, it makes sense to me. There's no capital gains in overnight, and you can't really. There might be some lucky guys out there, but it doesn't happen for everybody. You know what I mean? And I think the similar things with regards to recovery, that I see sometimes on social media, that people promising some magical moves or rehab plan. But I will definitely share your link underneath of this video, and people can connect to you and go from there. Thanks again, Rob, for time and sharing your story. Is there anything else that you'd like to add on into this?
No, everybody just know that it'll happen. Just takes time.
Excellent. Listen, thanks again. I appreciate your time.
I hope you guys find this video helpful. If you're suffering from lumbar disc herniation, as you see in this video, not all of the lumbar disc herniation needs surgery. And if you're suffering from lumbar disc herniation, you do have a chance to recover with conservative treatment and follow a plan. If you have a plan, I believe that can give you a lot of leverage and clarity about what you can do and what you can't. If you would like to go through a consultation with me and go through your question, you can use the link below and book an online consultation, and I will be able to give you some sort of clarity in regards to your injury and give you some projection where you can start and how you can progress your plan. Having said that, recovery is not a quick fix. As you can see in this video, Rob was following this plan for the last 6 months, and in this stage he's autopilot and he can follow his daily activity again and get back to work and sit, stand, walk, and even play volleyball almost pain-free. I would really appreciate if you'd be able to click that subscribe button and follow my channel for my weekly update. And if you find this video helpful, make sure to press that like button and leave me comments. This hugely helps my channel to grow and more people like yourself watch this video. Until next week, all the best.